ng bayan ko pag hindi maghinto talaga itong pasok ng droga. It would require more than just double of what we are doing now to cope up with the widespread importation or the presence of whatever, baka dito rin the drugs in the country. But I would like to reassure again those who are into it that do not destroy my country because I will kill you. It's no joke coming from me since I was mayor. Di talaga ako papayag kailanman. So, we have this operation number 1, the bypass operation in Imos, Cavite. Topacio State Phase 8, Barangay Magdalo. Mahayang Pag-asa, Imos, Cavite. The time was 9:15, September 9, 2021. The operating units, DepEd and the Armed Forces of the Philippines, together with the Bureau of Customs. Hindi ko na kailangan enumerate yan. Trabaho nila yan. So, you have the next slide. Arrested was Lani Micoleta Barbante, 45 years old, Imos, Cavite. Alwin Micoleta Mejia, 47, Imos, Cavite. Approximately 48 kilograms of shabu worth 331.2 million. Yung pasok. Tignan mo yung droga. Ito yung aabot sa mga bunganga ng mga ilong ng mga anak natin. This will be the drugs that would make them crazy permanently, making them inutil citizens of the country. Kung magbarami yan, puro inutil na yung Pilipino, saan na ang Pilipinas? Saan mo ilagay ang Pilipinas? Kaya yan sinasabi ko, where would you place my country if I allow you to do your thing? And if I listen to the human rights about violations, alam mo, sabi ko sa inyo, they are armed, all of them. At makita mo ito. Next slide. Yun ang mga droga. Mga walang kaluluwa to eh. At saka gusto talaga rin mamatay ang mga putang ina nila. Then, operation number 2, bypass operation in Bacoor, Cavite. Springfield Executive 1, Molino. Ganon. Operating units, well, the security forces of the country. NICA, pati Bureau of Customs, PDEA. Killed were Basir Bangon Pangguga, 59 years old, Cagayan de Oro City. Cagayan de Oro is just about a few kilometers from Marawi. A top-level drug personality with direct contact with the Chinese syndicate. His main market was the areas of Visayas and Mindanao. Then Calino Untanan with Tampugao, Las Parañas, Cavite. Kita mo yung 1 kilo of suspected shabu subject to bypass worth 600. 180 kilograms of suspected shabu possession worth 1.24 billion. Bilyones na kasi ngayon eh. You would notice that it is seldom mentioned that the drugs are worth about so many millions. Billions na ngayon ang pinag-usapan. So, millions ang tatamaan nito. During the time of Shabu, that's the last accurate count, there were about 1,400,000 Filipinos already na may tama na sa Shabu. And all are useless human beings, much less, lalo na citizen of this country. So, next slide. Ayan. Pag-aralan ninyo yung mabuti. Kayong mga gusto talaga. Do not give me that shit about human rights. Yun ang gusto ninyo. Ayan ang ibigay ko sa inyo. I have nothing but contempt for this. Well, good evening, everyone, mga kababayan ko. I would have want to spare you, no? Especially in front of your family, yung mga nangamatay, pero I have to do it to impress upon everybody the severity of the consequence kung magsalubong tayo. Now, tonight we will update the nation on several issues confronting our nation, including our latest COVID-19 pandemic response and our rescue and relief efforts on the affected areas of Typhoon Jolina and Typhoon Kiko. Let's talk first of the COVID-19 cases. Today, DOH reported 17,964 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the total number of active cases to 175,470. The positivity rate is at 28%. There are 168 reported deaths today. Marami yan. The total number of deaths is now sa Pilipinas namatay 34,899 or 1.6 of the total cases. Alam mo, if you compare this with the other nations, sa kunin natin doon sa number of population, medyo mababa tayo sa ratio. DOH has reported 9,067 new recoveries, around 90% or 1,969,401 million already recovered since last year. To inform the nation about the typhoons Jolina and Kiko at ano ang nangyari. I'd call on Secretary Halad to give us the report.
Good evening, Mr. President. I will now present the situation update in connection with Typhoon Jolina and Typhoon Kiko. Next slide, please. Shown, Mr. President, are the three weather systems being monitored by Pagasa. First is, of course, Tropical Storm Jolina, which is now outside of the Philippine area of responsibility after crossing eastern Visayas, Mimaropa, and Calabarzon and towards the western Philippine Sea. The focus now of Our monitoring is Typhoon Kiko, which as of 5 o'clock this afternoon was at 190 kilometers east of Cagayan, with a strength of about 215 kilometers per hour near its center, and gustiness of about 265 kilometers per hour. There is another weather system northeast of Typhoon Kiko, and that is a low pressure area in this location. Next slide. Now first on the updates on Typhoon Jolina. It was first detected as a low pressure area east of Surigao at 2 o'clock in the morning of last Monday, September 6. And that same day, that same morning, it developed into a tropical depression and intensified further that same day to a typhoon. So several stages of intensification in just one day. It made landfalls, 7 landfalls in all, in Eastern Visayas, Mimaropa, and Calabarzon from 6 September to 8 September. And as of last night, it exited the Philippine area of responsibility and was then a severe tropical storm. Next slide. There were reports of incident and flooding, 160 flooded areas, all in all, in Region 3, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Region 5, Region 6, and Region 7, and Region 8. But most of this already subsided. There were other 42 incidents monitored, like soil erosion, landslides, uprooting of trees, and 2 maritime incidents, or capsizing of 2 boats. A total of 11,062 individuals were displaced. This covers the preemptive evacuation carried out by the local government units in Calabarzon, Mimaropa, and Region 8, as well as the forced evacuations that followed during the onslaught of Typhoon Jolina. We received also report of, next slide please, 14 dead, 7 missing, and 20 injured. For the deaths, 1 died due to landslide incident in Laurel, Batangas. Other deaths are still for validation, but most of these were fishermen who were out into the sea during the onslaught of Typhoon Jolina. On damages, a total of, next slide please, 6,423 houses were damaged. Most of these, however, are only partially damaged. There are 22 damaged infrastructures amounting to around 30 million pesos, and damages to agriculture about 256 million pesos. Next slide. Our preparedness. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council Operations Center convened the different agencies and offices and conducted a series of meetings for our pre-disaster risk assessment. And we also issued 35 emergency alert and warning messages through the telco Smart and Globe. All national line agencies monitored and were placed on standby in the event of escalation of responses. There were also preparedness measures carried out by the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction Management Councils of Region 8, Mimaropa, Calabarzon, NCR, Region 5, and Central Zone. The local government units likewise carried out their pre-disaster risk assessment meetings, conducted preemptive evacuations, and rescue operations, and they were also in the forefront in catering to the needs of affected populations or in the management of evacuation centers. These are some of the pictures during the disaster responses in connection with Typhoon Jolina. As most of the evacuees have gone back to their respective homes by now, the focus is on the search and rescue for the 7 missing individuals, the provision of support to those still in evacuation centers, replenishment of relief goods to LGUs by DSWD, and clearing operations. So that is our update in connection with Typhoon Jolina, Mr. President, and on to the updates on Typhoon Kiko. Presently, Typhoon Kiko is now moving northwestward from its position east of Tuguegarao. Shown is the timelines describing the development of Kiko from its entry into the Philippine area of responsibility on September 7. And as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, based on the Tropical Cyclone Bulletin number 15 of Pagasa, Typhoon Kiko was located at 190 kilometers east of Tuguegarao City, Cagayan. Its maximum sustained winds is at 215 kilometers per hour, which is 10 kilometers per hour short of the super typhoon category. But its gustiness is at 265 kilometers per hour, which is already at a super typhoon category. It is moving at 15 kilometers per hour to the direction of the northwest. And at 6:20 this afternoon, Pagasa raised tropical cyclone warning signal number 4 for Babuyan Island, Cagayan, which is second to the highest of our typhoon signal. And at 8:20 this evening, an orange rainfall heavy alert or intense rain was released over Cagayan province. Based on the predictive analytics by DSWD, using Pagasa's data on rainfall, around 746,000 individuals are projected to be affected by Typhoon Kiko in the next 72 hours. These areas include also areas in Mindanao which will experience heavy rains due to Typhoon Kiko. Next slide, please. Next slide. Shown are our preparedness for Typhoon Kiko. The meetings we conducted at the Operation Center of the NDRMC, the release of alerts and advisories, and the preparedness measures of the national line agencies. We also conducted emergency meeting this afternoon, focusing on the updates from Region 2, which is the region nearest to the center of the track of Typhoon Kiko. Next slide. This is our monitoring of the dam situation, and Magat Dam, which contributed to the flooding last year in Cagayan Valley, is still at 4 meters below its spilling level. Bonton Bridge in Tuguegarao City likewise is at 2.5 meters level. Its alarm level is at 8 meters and critical level is 11 meters. So that means that it looks like we have no risk of flooding in Cagayan River due to Typhoon Kiko. The other dam levels are also as shown. Ambuklao in Benguet is also below its spilling level. Should it spill water, it will flow into Binga Dam which is likewise still at below spilling level. But should it spill, its water will feed into the San Roque Dam in Pangasinan, which is still 17 meters below its spilling level. Next slide, please. Shown are the preparedness measures of the Office of Civil Defense as well as their regional disaster risk reduction management councils. Region 2, through this WD, readied the 20,000 plus family food tax and started today the carrying out of preemptive evacuations in Cagayan and Isabela. And likewise prepositioned heavy equipment and teams for clearing and availability of PPEs in evacuation centers. The other regions, Region 1, Region 3, and Cordillera, their preparation is more on readiness of logistics, since there's still no need for carrying out preemptive evacuation in their areas. So, next slide, please. So that ends my presentation, Mr. President, on updates on the situation in connection with Typhoon Jolina and Typhoon Kiko. Thank you.
Thank you, General Halad. At this point, let's talk about education, and I'd like to call on Secretary Briones to report on DepEd and what's happening in the department.
Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, fellow members of the Cabinet, as well as the Filipino people. We want to give a summary of our 5-year gains in the fight for accessible and quality education. During the past 5 years, Mr. President, we have continually addressed the challenge of quality in basic education. We are now concentrating on quality since we were successful in increasing enrollment levels. So it's not quantity alone, but quality as well. Under our program of Sulong Edukalidad, we reviewed the curriculum where before we required more than 15,000 learning competencies, and which were reduced to 5,000 in the light of the pandemic, Mr. President. We all know that where there are good students, well-performing learners, there should be good teachers as well. There will be good teachers and we will have good learners. And so we are transforming the National Educators Academy of the Philippines. We are also continuously consulting with the broad range of stakeholders, which we call the Education Forum, which gives us advice on many things relative to education. The gains, next please. The gains in education, Mr. President, were made possible because of the very high level of support and commitment that your administration has given to education right from the beginning. When you assumed in 2016, Mr. President, you increased our budget by 31% from 2015, which is very, very significant. And at present, our budget stands at 595 billion pesos, which constitutes a significant portion of our national budget as provided for by the Constitution. Next, please. What is important, Mr. President, is how we utilize the budget and the funds which are made available to us. In the year 2015, just before you assumed office, Mr. President, we had in DepEd 88% budget utilization. At present, for the year 2020, your budget utilization rate is 96%. This means that we have, as much as possible, utilized the funds that you have given to us through the national budget from 88 to 96%. Next, please. Mr. President, insofar as the enrollment is concerned, as I said, we first concentrated on quantity. We recorded an 8.45% increase in enrollment from 24.92 million learners to 27 million learners in 2019. And despite the pandemic, Mr. President, we managed an enrollment of 26.23 million students for this year, which is 97% of pre-pandemic. And considering all the different varieties of viruses which has plagued our system, including education, it's quite significant that our enrollment levels are still high. Next, please. We also have invested the funds that you have given to us through our budget in improving the learning environment. We have built, with funds which you provided, 150,149 new classrooms compared to the period of 2010 to 2016 of 118,000. We have built technical and vocational laboratories of 12,786 compared to 147 which were built during the same period of 2010 and 2016. We have repaired and rehabilitated classrooms, 103,548, vis-a-vis the previous period of 35,804. And since we believe and we protect our heritage schools, we have rebuilt with the funds that you have given us 588 Gabaldon heritage schools. These are the very old schools, perhaps during your mother's time. From 53 the previous administration to 588 Gabaldon schools restored. And we have also benefited 2.1 million average of beneficiaries. Only recently, with the donation of the Department of Finance, of gadgets and tablets, which were turned over to us by the Bureau of Customs, we distributed this to the what we call the last mile schools, schools which have been nearly forgotten and were left behind. Next, please. We are also reaching more out of school young people. You have always opened your heart to learners who don't have the opportunity to study and to pursue education. And so our enrollment, for example, Mr. President, for the equivalent of 5 years compared to the previous 5 years is 57% higher than past administrations, in spite of all the challenges of pandemics and viruses and various controversies. And so we produced graduates from one region, for example, where we piloted senior high school for the alternative learning systems. This is for students who don't have the opportunity to go to regular school because they are either working or they don't have the capacity to support themselves. Next, please. On the matter of nourishment and nutrition, we all know the direct relationship between good nutrition and good learning, effective learning for our children. So we have an annual average of 2,191,442 malnourished and undernourished learner beneficiaries benefiting from school-based feeding programs. Right now, we have projects with agencies, for example, like the Department of Agriculture, to provide milk and bread for learners who are malnourished and undernourished. Our ideal and our ambition, our dream, Mr. President, that we don't distinguish between and among malnourished and undernourished. All children should be fed when they go to school, as they are fed also in other countries. Next, please. We have distributed 55,151 ICT. This is internet packages which were delivered for the past 5 years. And as I have said, we immediately distributed donations from the Department of Finance and other partners for advancing our journey towards the digital age. Personally, Mr. President, I would like to lessen our dependence on materials which are made out of paper, because we trigger floods, we require the killing of forests, etc., etc. And usually these materials are more expensive compared to ICT. And we are grateful. Department of Finance has donated twice already, customs. And we are hoping that they will catch more smugglers for the benefit of our learners. And have also been negotiating with our multilateral partners like Asian Development Bank for the provision, Mr. President, of radios and other means of teaching and learning for our students, because there are places where you don't have connectivity, and we use radios, and they're very interesting for our children. We also have improved the ratio. We are always told time and again, Mr. President, that you have classes with 70 or 80 kids and one teacher. This is not true anymore. In 2016, when you started, we brought down the number of students per classroom to 32 per class. And in 2020, we brought down the number to 28 learners per class, instead of the usual dramatics about 60 to 70 or 80 kids per classroom. Most important, Mr. President, next please, in our fight for access and quality, next please, for our teachers, we consider them our heroes. And I have shown this chart before. Please, next chart, please. This one. It's very interesting, Mr. President. When you came in 2016, a teacher one who is at the lowest level of teaching earned 19,077. At this time, basic salary to Mr. President, he or she is earning 23,877 under your administration, Mr. President. By the time you end your administration in 2022, the lowest salary rate of a teacher, lowest grade, is 25,439, and not the pittance which has also been described by various sources. So by the end of your term, first we started the highest level for a teacher, Mr. President. Perhaps your mother was a master teacher, but she was even higher than this. When you came in, the salary of the highest teacher grade was 43,000. Now, the salary of the highest teacher grade is 60,901. Very, very much higher than my salary when I was a full professor at the University of the Philippines and an emeritus professor, 60,000. And by 2022, when you finish your term, your highest teacher, this is master teacher 4, will be at 62,449 basic salary, Mr. President. Now, in addition to the basic salaries which you have generously provided, because all of us love our teachers. You have other allowances which our teachers earn, like the personal economic relief allowance. This is 2,000 pesos, Mr. President. The clothing allowance of 6,000 pesos. Before, Mr. President, we gave uniforms ready-made or cloth to be made into uniforms. Now we give them money. They have a choice. We give them 6,000. It's their choice. They can have new uniforms made, or they can make do with their old uniforms, but they are not held accountable for that money. Whatever they do with their clothing allowance, that is their choice, and that is 6,000 pesos. Of course, they have the mid-year bonus, which is allotted to all government employees. This is 1 month basic pay. Then you have this special hardship allowance for those who are in more difficult circumstances. This is 25% of the annual basic salary, 1/4. Then you have the honoraria for teaching overload. We have to emphasize this because perhaps the public needs more information on the benefits that you, under your administration, has given to teachers, which is a maximum of 25% of basic salary. I wish cabinet members will also get 25% of their basic salary when they stay up to 12 midnight attending IATF meetings. And then, most wonderful of all, and Senator Bong has been instrumental here, is the World Teachers Day incentive, which is 1,000 pesos per teacher. Every year we celebrate Global Teachers Day. The entire world pays tribute to the teacher. But ours is different because we give money, we give cash awards to our teachers, all of them. And while 1,000 seems small, you signed and you approved 910 million for this particular benefit alone for the teacher, a very huge chunk of our budget. And that is how you have always loved teachers. And then we have the 1 month basic pay of the employee as well, plus the usual representation allowance and transportation allowance. And then you have the step, this is called the step increment due to length of service. The longer you stay in government or in the Department of Education, for every 3 years of continuous service, you are promoted 1 step. And this is part of the 3-page list of benefits. Then you have the productivity enhancement incentive, which is which we call the performance bonus, and we have debates about this, of course. This is 5,000 per year, Mr. President. And then the cash gift of 5,000 again, Mr. President. And then for those who specialize in teaching science and mathematics, they have 3 salary step increments if they specialize in mathematics and science, because we are moving into the digital age. Furthermore, Mr. President, and it's a very long list, I'm sorry to bore you, it's a long list of money for our teachers. Loyalty cash incentive, 1,000 pesos for every year of service. Cash allowance subject to special provisions of the GAA, 5,000 pesos per year. Transportation and teaching aid allowance for the alternative learning teachers, those who teach for our ALS program, which you have generously supported, 3,000 and 5,000 pesos, Mr. President. So we have 3 pages of benefits which our teachers right now are enjoying. And then we also have been proposing additional teaching positions for the teachers. Before, Mr. President, the highest level of teaching is for a teacher is teacher 3, and then the next would already be master teacher 1, 2, 3, 4. we are proposing not only from teacher 3, we are proposing teacher 4, 5, 6, 7. So there will be more spaces for the teachers to move up from, with the corresponding proposed also increase in compensation. And for master teacher, we're also proposing an additional rank. Kasi ngayon, it's only up to master teacher. For right now, a master teacher gets 60,901 pesos. As I said, nearly double my salary as a full professor in UP. We are proposing the addition of another rank of master teacher 5 at 68,450 basic salary for the teacher. And this is how your administration has all these years, these 5 years, given attention and recognized the services of our teachers. Lastly, Mr. President, we are initiating a number of new projects. I always say, Mr. President, that I am the oldest in the Department of Education, but I am the youngest in terms of ideas and programs in the department. And we have established what I describe as the Education Futures Program, wherein we try to discern, hindi naman parang Madam Auring, what society will be, what it will need, so that education can respond. Like, for example, the possibilities now of robot teachers, which are being studied in other countries, brain implants, machines which are so much better than humans, and how can humans remain human in the light of all these fascinating developments. So we are not looking at next year's election, Mr. President, but perhaps 30 years from now, 40 years from now, what will society be like? How will we prepare our learners? How will we prepare them mentally, aside from memorizing multiplication tables, Mr. President, as well as correcting their grammar? So this is one program which we are very interested in. And of course, another new addition, and Senator Bong is here with me, of course, is the establishment of the National Academy of Sports, which we are hoping to open also within this year, also together with the formal opening of classes. So bago itong dalawa, National Academy of Sports and the Education Futures program. So, Mr. President, these are just a few of the things that we have achieved with your support, with your inspiration, and of course, with your financial generosity. And we look forward to attaining these goals by the time your term ends. Thank you, Mr. President.
Salamat, ma'am. I'd like to call on Professor De Vera if he has something to add to the especially the CHED.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a PowerPoint presentation. Maiksi lang, maiksi. Can you please flash it? Okay, I'd just like to give an update, Mr. President, on the reopening of classes in higher education. Next slide, please. Out of the close to 2,000 universities and colleges, about 1/3 has already opened in August, Mr. President. So nagsimula na yung semestre para sa ibang malalaking eskwelahan. The others are opening this September and until October. So we have successfully opened the school year 2021-2022 all over the country. Next slide, please. Dahil sa pagpirma nyo ng free higher ed, 1.6 million students are now not paying tuition and miscellaneous fees anymore. So, libre na ang tuition and miscellaneous fees ng 1.6 million ng mga estudyante sa lagpas 200 public universities all over the country. The enrollment has increased from academic year 2019-2020 to 2020-2021. So malinaw po, Mr. President, ang mensahe na pwede ka nang hindi lamang mangarap kundi makamit ang iyong pangarap sa kolehiyo at university. We also are funding about 435,000 students in public and private universities through the tertiary education subsidy. Yung mga nag-aaral sa public ay nakakakuha ng FAS, Mr. President, naging lifeline ito sa panahon ng COVID. Kasi ang enrollment sa public universities has not declined during COVID dahil libre ang tuition at yung 40,000 na nakukuha nila ay naging ayuda na pangbuhay ng kanilang pamilya ngayong panahon ng COVID. So, kung hindi po napirmahan yung RA 10931, Mr. President, mas grabe ang magiging epekto sa panahon ng COVID. Madaming hindi makakapag-aral dahil walang pang-tuition at walang pang-tustos. Kasama pa dito ang 210,000 na tulong-dunong beneficiaries. Next slide, please. Maliban sa RA 10931, we are also subsidizing now about 91,000 additional students in public and private universities through merit scholarships. Ito yung mga scholarship para sa matatilinong mga estudyante. At dahil sa bayanihan to, binigyan ang DepEd ng 300 million pesos para bawasan ng tigli 5,000 yung utang ng mga estudyante sa private schools para mabawasan yung kanilang utang. At natulungan natin ng 60,000 ng mga estudyante for this year in 2020. Next slide, please. Meron ho kaming hinahanda na 2 MOA. Ito po i-discuss ko na kay ES Medialdea. Yung una ay yung yung DepEd DND-DILG scholarship. Nakausap ko rin po si Secretary Ed Anyo tungkol dito. Meron na kaming MOA na ready ng pirmahan para bigyan ng stipend yung mga anak na mga AFP at PNP personnel who are killed in action against insurgents. Namatay ho itong programang ito sa AFP, naubusan yata ng pera. At sa PNP ay walang programang ganito dati. So we have a MOA ready for discussion and signing para matulungan natin yung anak ng mga killed in action against insurgents. Kasama po ito dun sa utos nyo several cabinet meetings ago dun sa ating anti-insurgency program. Yung isa pa po na hinahanda namin, may MOA na rin. Next slide please. Ay yung balik loob scholarship. Ito ho ay sa Armed Forces para doon sa mga anak naman ng mga rebel returnees. Ito po ay bahagi ng utos ni A.S. Bingbong in one of the cabinet meetings to work on this program. Ito po ay siguro mag-uusap na lang kami ni Secretary Ed kung paano at kailan ito pwedeng simulan. So pinapalawak po natin yung mga matutulong ang mga bata para sila makapagpatuloy mag-aral. Next slide, please. Nireport na po ni Secretary Bebot Bello ito, yung tabang OFW. Binigyan natin ng 30,000 pesos ang anak ng mga OFW na bumalik sa Pilipinas at hindi makaalis. Ang natulungan natin sa ngayon ay 16,719 dependents na. Meron pa ho tayong natitirang mga 500 million para dito para pwede nating i-cover itong current school year. So in total, ang matutulungan natin ay pinakakunti yung 16, kung sila ulit bibigyan pa ng 1 taon, matutulungan natin ito. So binibigyan natin sila ng 30,000 pesos na grant. At baka sakali naman kung bumuti yung ekonomiya at sila'y makaalis na, baka hindi na nila kailanganin ito sa susunod na taon. So meron ho tayong 1 billion na allocation dyan. Sabi nyo po, doon sa isang programa ay datagdagan nyo ng 3 billion itong programang ito. Ito po yung report ni Sept. Galing po ang pondo sa CHED, pero ang implementasyon ay pinagtutulungan namin ang DOLE. Next slide, please. Nagpapasalamat kami, Mr. President, na noong January, pinayagan nyo na yung limited face-to-face classes sa Medicine and Allied Health Sciences. I would like to report that we have inspected and authorized, kasama ko po si Sec. Charlie do sa unang inspection noon, we have inspected and authorized 118 schools to hold limited face-to-face classes, covering about 247 programs. Next slide, please. Ito yung covered sa ngayon: medicine, nursing, physical therapy, midwifery, medtech, speech language, dentistry, hanggang radiologic technology. Ito yung mga programang nag-face-to-face na yung mga selected schools, mga third year and fourth year students ito, dahil kailangan nila yung hands-on experience para sila ay maging bihasa sa kanilang ginagawa. Next slide, please. So, there are now a total of 13,000 students who are authorized to hold limited face-to-face classes in MGCQ areas, and GCQ areas where there are COVID-19 hospitals, and more than 1,000 faculty members who are authorized to hold face-to-face classes. Next slide, please. Last April 15, nagpapasalamat po kami sa IATF at inakyat yung category ng mga estudyante at faculty na maging essential health workers sila. So napabakunahan na natin ang close to 10,000 students doing face-to-face and more than 1,000 faculty members doing face-to-face classes. So we have put an additional safety level doon sa mag-face-to-face. Kaya po ang resulta, next slide please. Ang resulta, Mr. President, from January until last month, ang infection level sa mga estudyante ng face-to-face is less than 1%. It's only 0.3%. Sa faculty, 1.4% ang infection level. Lahat ito ay mild at asymptomatic. Wala pong na-hospital at walang namatay na bata o faculty sa limited face-to-face classes. Next slide, please. Kaya ang mihiling, Mr. President, ay baka pwedeng i-expand na natin ito sa ibang programa na kailangan din talaga ng limited face-to-face. Dinala ko na po sa IATF at inindoso na nila sa inyo ang pag-expand sa 3 main areas: engineering, HRM, at maritime programs. Ito lang po muna ang uunahin natin kasi dito kailangan talaga ng skills, lalo na sa engineering. Sa maritime program naman po, sumulat na yung mga international maritime companies sa Philippine schools na kung hindi papayagan yung mga estudyanteng sumakay ng barko, mag-shipboard, ibibigay po nila yung slot sa ibang bansa. So meron pong urgency na payagan natin sila kasi kung hindi ko maka-shipboard, hindi maka-train sa barko yung ating mga estudyante, sila po hindi makakakuha ng, hindi makakagraduate at hindi po makakasakay sa mga barko sa labas. So ito po ay in-endorse na po ng IATF 3 weeks ago at pinadala ko na po ang sulat sa inyo. Ligtas naman po, mahigpit ang ating guidelines. 24 pages na guidelines na ginawa ng CHED at DOH.
wala pa pong namamatay, wala pang na-ospital, isisiguruhin ho namin na kung papayagan nyo itong mga ito, ganun din po kababa yung infection level. Finally, Mr. President, sa pagtutulungan namin ni Secretary Vince at instruction ni E.S. Medialdea, tapos na po yung guidelines ng DepEd at saka Department of Health para payagan yung mga estudyante sa 4th year and 5th year medicine and nursing at yung mga graduate na hindi pa nakakatapos ng licensure exam, napapayagan silang maging vaccinator para po dumami yung ating mga magbabakuna. Tapos na po yung guidelines, isusumite namin sa IATF next week. Kung okay ho sa IATF, baka pwede nang i-implement ito pagkatapos. Nakausap po natin lahat ng schools, sila isusuporta sa kanilang mga estudyante para mapabilis po natin yung pagbakuna. Maraming salamat, Mr. President.
I'd like to ask you your permission to allow me to say something about the procurement of the masks, face shields, and personal protective equipment for healthcare workers. Ako ba, well, I made this guarantee that these transactions are legal, that there is no wrongdoing, there is no crime involved here, that I am willing to resign kung may corruption. Yan ang binigay ko, and I will do it at kung may makita sila. You know, in March of last year, we imposed strict quarantine protocols and lockdowns in Luzon and as part of a response in the COVID-19 pandemic. By first week of April, we have had an increasing number of cases of deaths, which included our health workers and doctors. Back then, the situation was becoming dire as we also had very limited supplies of personal protective equipment or PPEs in our hospitals. In fact, kulang na kulang ang supply, and ang capacity natin at that time in dealing with the virus was just almost not really nil, but almost, let me find the inadequate. Well, at that time, that no country was really prepared, just like any other. In a pandemic, you are racing against time to save lives, quick to decisions and actions, and had to be made to be able to do this. Congress granted executive department special powers under Bayanihan 1. And the exercise of these powers, we procured a total of 288,000 PPEs in April 2020 from China through PSDBM, and were transported to the country via C-130, PAL, and Cebu Pacific flights. Alam mo, ako na mismo, sabi ko nga, as I have stated for the nth time, I was also the one in the hurry. As a matter of fact, the number one person who was really insistent na ngayon, itong ongoing projects ng Congress, sabi naman Commission of Audit, si Michael Aguinaldo himself clarified that the findings of the auditing team that attended the Department of Budget and Management Procurement Service pertain to the inventory management and not to the alleged overpricing of the medical supplies of the fight against COVID-19. The findings of the auditing that handles PSDBM really pertain more to the inventory management and not overpricing. Michael said during the Senate inquiry, to further accelerate the positioning of the PPS and critical supplies to strategic areas, BRP Bacolod carrying a total of 200,000 PPS is departed from China on May 1, 2020, bound for Davao City. The PPS are full piece sets including the now subject face mask and face shields, many of which are allocated for all government hospitals and other hospitals with COVID-19 patients and laboratories. Again, these are meant to our healthcare workers and not for the general public. Hindi ito pambigay sa mga in general kung sino-sino lang. As we replenish our stocks of mid-May 2020, we were able to distribute PPEs to a total of 699 hospitals, irrespective of whether government or private hospital. In the meantime, nag-usap kami I had a chance to have a talk here with Senator Soto. Binabanggit kasi niya, sabi niya, I agree that inconvenient masyado itong mask. Is there a way that we can do away with it? Sabi ko, gusto ko. I said, because it is very inconvenient and it really does not make you in proper equality, whatever, if there is something hanging in front of your face. Nung sinabi ko, pabor ako, pero nung right after that, as prudence would dictate, I consulted the medical sector, yung mga scientists, and they said that totoo, it is not really an answer-all solution, but it can prevent at least with the mask a little of the average protection. And when they mentioned to me the new variant data entering the country, I got scared. So, binalik ko yung there was no order yet, but I never really went to order the doing away with the mask. Ngayon, binalik ko yan. Sabi ko with the coming of COVID-D, sabi ko, if it can add a little more protection, so mas mabuti na lang niya, it's a little bit convenience, but it could mean life and death for a person, for a citizen of this country. So binalik ko. So ako na yung may order na ibalik, na magsuot talaga. But what was the order of sa DOH nung nag-meeting tayo? Sabi ko, ibalik ko kasi I said, taking the view from the medical people, sabi nila, it can increase the average of protection. So, yun lang ang ito namang sabi ni Aguinaldo, dalawa yun Itong Congress, itong maldito talaga to. They started first with, there are two issues. They started with the unspent billions. Tapos sabi nila, wala namang nakuha kasi unspent ka, nandyan. But they are asking si Duque kung bakit hanggang ngayon hindi pa nagastos. I mean, you do not run Department of Health by legislation. Yun ang problema sa kanila. So, wala yun. Kasi huwag mong pasinin yan. If you have a program for the remaining amounts in your department, do it. Do not listen to Congress, they're all bullshit. Wala pang ano lang yan, pang istorbo lang yung yawa na yan. Dito naman sa kabila, dito ko tinaya ang pangalan ko. Kasi tinanong ko talaga yung mga tao. The Commission on Audit, Chairman Aguinaldo himself clarified that the findings of the auditing team that handled the Department of Budget and Management Procurement Service pertain to the inventory management and not to the alleged overpricing of the medical supplies to fight against COVID. Bakit sila maggawa ng inventory na when the program is going on? I think they should let Secretary Duque finish his job, then conduct the inventory of what is left or what is missing, and that is the time that you make, the findings of the auditing that handled PSPM really pertain more to inventory management and not the overpricing. Aguinaldo said during the Senate inquiry on Tuesday. Dito ko nga tinaya eh. Dito ko sinabi na mag-resign ako kung merong corruption dyan. Ora mismo, bababa ako. Kuha, nagsabi na walang anomalya sa disbursement at delivery ng items because it was accounted for. Ano ba ang inyong gusto mailisip? Ang agenda ng Blue Ribbon Committee, motu proprio investigation, the senators keep looking for the technical and financial requirements of Farmally. Wala ka na pakialam dyan. Farmally is really a Farmally corporation sa Singapore. Doon yung nag-provide. Ito si Michael Yang, whom I knew for the last 20 years na negosyante ng Davao. Siya yung inutusan ko initially noon nung I made contacts with the Chinese. Eh, siyempre may negosyo, nakikisali. Negosyante. Ano ba magawa mo? Na ito na ngayon, ang ginaano nila, wala silang makita, yung Farmally. Yung Farmally, what is clear is that there was this contract, there was delivery, kompleto lahat, specifications, as to quality, quantity, and all. Tapos, after delivery, bago pa nagbayad ang Pilipinas. So, ito mong anong gusto na, ito pa rin si Drilon, he might want to explain his relationship with Janet Lim Napoles, since you want to discuss corruption and the use of people's money. And I can still remember that Miss Napoles tampered with billions of pesos. And how did you end up partying in Heritage Park in Taguig with the police and all people? Could you call that a perfect coincidence? You claim that you have only met the police 10 times, but the photos show your closeness. And is it true that the police contributed 5 million to your campaign? At ikaw pa rin ang kasama mo sa Senado ang nagsabi na may binigay ay kapalit. So what did you give in return? Since you have proclaimed yourself and your friends there in the Senate as anti-corruption czars, please enlighten Mr. Senator. Can you explain to the Filipinos your connection with former Mayor Jed Mabilog and General Garbo Are they both connected in the illegal drug trade? Yung mga tao ninyo noon sa panahon ninyo. And since we are talking about Iloilo, can you also tell us who owns the biggest mall in Iloilo City and who brokered the sale of the old Iloilo City Airport to Megaworld? We are just curious, Mr. Senator. Ito naman si Gordon. Itong si Gordon, malalim itong away namin. Talaga mag-aaway kami nitong buwang na ito. He claims that the Red Cross is totally independent of an adjunct independent from the government, national or local. Tapos sabi niya, because I'm looking for the annual reports in the local sa Red Cross, creating the Red Cross. The Red Cross must submit to the President an annual report. Since then, wala akong natanggap. 6 na taon na ako, Mr. Senator Gordon. Nasaan na ang report? And why would you say now that the government of the Republic of the Philippines cannot conduct an audit sa Red Cross because it is totally independent? If it is totally independent, you are correct. But it is not totally independent because you have been receiving aid, financial aid, from the Republic of the Philippines. At ikaga nga, nagkukuha ka pa dyan sa PCSO ng pera. Now, any money belonging to the government of the Republic of the Philippines given to an agency, whatever be the nature, if you're operating here and you receive the money and spend it, you are accountable to the government, and therefore an audit is in order. So in the coming days, I will write you a letter to open up your records, because I will also request Aguinaldo, and I am sure he knows his business, that there is money in Red Cross belonging to the government which he has to look into. Ngayon, kung ayaw mo, mapipilitan akong totally disassociate with you. I will stop government, the national government and all, from having transaction with you in any manner. Wala akong pakialam, hindi ako magbigay ng pera sa iyo. Saka, as far as I am concerned, Red Cross does not exist. And you can create a controversy there or a crisis. I do not mind, because I said I am on the right track. Either you submit an auditing procedure or we quarrel. Pag mag-quarrel, do your worst because I will do mine. Mahirap yung sabihin mo na at saka Mr. Senator Gordon, kilala mo ba ito si Glenn Tan ng Subic? Do you know him? Because he knows you very well. Well enough to talk about you. Kumusta ito si Gwendolyn Pang? That lady from Sulu na nag-join sa Red Cross. Pakisagot lang nito para maano tayo. At pwede ka rin magsagot sa akin. Ako pa ang magbigay ng lista sa iyo. Dito naman sa more on COVID vaccines. We are grateful to the outgoing United States Secretary of Affairs, John Law, as he expressed optimism for stronger security alliance and cooperation between U.S. and the Philippines. On behalf of the grateful nation, maraming salamat. Do I understand that there's a new shipment from Secretary Galvez? Can you elaborate?
Yes, sir. There is a U.S. COVAX donation of more or less 5.5 million, and that's the initial, sir. Initially, the UNICEF has given us the number of 10, but they just committed 5.5 million for this September, and the others will be following up. And also the U.S. government, through our Secretary of Foreign Affairs, who is already in the U.S., and also Secretary Lorenzana, they have intimated our request for the possible acceleration of the different U.S. brand companies like Moderna and Pfizer. And the CEO of Moderna made a commitment that they will provide 5 million Moderna this coming September, and also Pfizer will also provide another 5 million.
Let me stress the point that we are doing well with our vaccination. But the fact is that there is a shortfall. Hindi natin mabigyan lahat sabay-sabay kasi kulang. I think we need, we are short of about, how many was it, Sonny?
Mr. President, to achieve our goal of vaccinating the 100 million residents of the Philippines by the end of the year, between now and the end of the year, we need a delivery of around 9 million doses a week. That is what we need. A week, 9 million a week, so that we will be able to get a total of 195 million vaccine doses since March. And with all of that, we can vaccinate about 100 million people. So if you divide the balances by the number of weeks, we need around 9 million a week to be delivered by the pharmas. Now, I just want to emphasize, Mr. President, this has already been ordered, and there is already money set aside for this. What we are waiting for is the delivery. Now, as I said, we need 9 million a week. Unfortunately, for the first week of September, we only received about 3.5 million. So we have to catch up for the coming weeks. So again, we want to tell our citizens that as soon as the vaccines arrive, they are actually deployed and people are inoculated. But again, the pharmaceutical companies have had some difficulty in making the deliveries, Mr. President.
Yeah, gusto ko lang ulit itagalogin ko na lang. May pera tayo. Sabi nga ni Secretary Dominguez, we have the money ready. The fact is, we have placed the orders, but kulang talaga worldwide until now. So, nag-aagawan pa rin. Were it not for the good, ano ng Amerikano pati ang China who contributed the largest portion of our donated vaccines. Mahirapan tayo. Hindi natin sabihin, may naririnig ako, sige, bakit nila bakuna ng bakuna? Gusto namin. And I even suggested to Secretary Garvels to send some to the provinces, especially cities in Visayas and Mindanao, which are hard hit by the pandemic. Kaya itong face shield hindi ko tinanggal. You have to continue using it. Mabutit na lang yan. I mean, a little amount of protection in addition to the mask, which will be provided by the face shield. Mas makatulong ito. Kaysa tanggalin natin and you remove that premium of protection. Not really a complete protection, but the premium that it will provide by wearing the face shields. Yan ang baka ang sinabi nga ni Secretary Dominguez, well, maybe towards the end of the year or maybe early next year, first quarter, if we are able to get the vaccines, then we are on our road to recovery. At least by that time, a good number of the people would be vaccinated. Sa Invictin, ivermectin, originally para ito sa baboy. Ngayon, it graduated into a medicine or a chemical that it can provide protection against COVID-19. That is according to some sectors. And marami yan at mga doktor at marami rin yan. And in other countries, they have also embarked on these clinical studies, but the problem is it is not clear. Nobody has published a journal, a medical journal, which the doctors rely on, na magsasabi na all of these tests were conducted and the result is what is being laid down here. Wala pa. Everything is in quandary. Kanya-kanyang pero there is no actual definite finding na mapublish lang naman baski sa medical journals ng mga doktor na masabi natin na pwede na ito. So, I leave it really to the doctor-patient relationship. If the doctor believes in good faith that it can help, and the patient also believes in his heart that he will get well, we leave it up to you to decide. Kasi mahirap naman masisi na kung totoo talagang effective tapos pipigilan mo with the testimony bound plus yung mga maraming tao nagsabi na gumaling sila. So for some people it would be quite a good gamble to embark on. Pero ako, I am guided, since I am with government, I am a worker of government, I rely on the work and the narratives of government doctors So, I am bound by what they say. Hindi masyado ako pwedeng magsalita ditong ivermectin. My suggestion is, doctor-patient na lang. If both doctor and patient believe that it can help, that it will produce result, then sa inyo na ho yan. I leave it up to your good ninyo kung discernment kung tama ba. On the granular lockdown on GCQ with alert levels, last September 8, the Interagency Task Force for the Management and Emerging Infectious Diseases ito na nung sa resulta nito, yung bunga nga mo hindi masyado bubuka. Emerging infectious diseases has deferred the implementation of general community quarantine with alert level system in the National Capital Region. Ako yung isa nagsabi, kulang ang guidelines. This to further refine the guidelines. Ayan. I ask for a general public's continued understanding and patience on this matter. I know that many of you are raring to go to work and conduct your business already, but we have to make sure that we cover any contingency so that we may reduce the risk of infections. Frankly, I'd like to be honest with you. Kung ito lang, it does not involve death or yung serious physical illness. Kung pagka ito lang, it's a matter of being a cough syrup or a pill for a headache, a migraine maybe, hindi na ako makialam nito, hindi nga ako magsalita. But the problem is, buhay yan ang mahirap, and I would not want to be remembered as one who caused the death of so many. Kung maaari lang minus-minisan ko yung mamatay dito sa Pilipinas during my watch. Walang ganun pa rin. Mask, hugas, iwas, bakuna. May tama yung iba na we are pushing people really to go and get the bakuna, but in some places in the Philippines or a large portion of the country does not have the bakuna kasi kulang nga. Inuuna natin yung population density. Kasi kung mas maraming tao, mas dikit-dikit, mas marami ang hawaan. Ngayon, kung sa baryo, tag 1 kilometro kalayo yung bahay ninyo, and if you follow government admonitions, mas maganda. Kaya yung inuna natin, yung mga Cebu, Cagayan, Davao, maybe Bacolod, mataas, Manila. At itong Manila talaga ang pinaka. Itong Luzon. May ibang lugar. Davao, marami rin tao. Density ng tao ang problema eh. Yung malapitan. So, whether you like it or not, whether you want to maintain the required distance, ay makita mo naman dyan sa TV kung pinapalabas sa hapon-hapon, nagtaano ang tao kasi marami. Simple, mas maraming tao talaga. So, yan ang hindi natin mapigilan. You still have, is there anything that you want to talk further?
Myself, sir.
Yes, ikaw yung we left with you doing the...
Thank you. Yes, Mr. President. Just two things. The first is about the financing for the vaccinations. As I mentioned, they are all in place already. And again, we're just waiting for the deliveries. So we are assured by Secretary Galvez and Secretary Dizon that as soon as the vaccines come, they are injected already right away. The second point I would like to make, Mr. President, is about this controversy on this investigation on the PPEs.
Yeah.
So far, I've been following the investigations, and so far, there does not seem to be an accusation of any violation of the law, or there's no accusation of overpricing, and there's no accusation of under-delivery, or accusation of misdelivery, or the product is not the right product. So I would suggest that those who are questioning this transaction come out with a program, with a charge sheet to clear the air already. It's very important for the Filipino people to know if there was something anomalous that was done. So far, after I don't know how many 5 or 6 days of investigation, there is no accusation as far as I have listened to. So let's get on with it. So para maklaro sa lahat kung may masama talaga nangyari o wala. Thank you.
They're zeroing now on Michael Yang and Parmali. Alam mo, sabi mo, if there was an order and the order was delivered and the product was found to be as specified by the specification ko, all right, then we pay. Ewan ko kung anong pag hinahanap nito, why go into the bagay. We will not want to control them, but we would like also to just criticize them for, alam mo, wala kayong nakukuha dyan, you want a fishing expedition. So you might as well, ganito na lang ang laro natin. You find your fault in us, and we will find what's wrong with you. In the case of, I'll begin first with Senator